thank you so much for coming in to join us to talk about this report today, Mr. Linnington.
Thank you, Nancy. My pleasure to be here, by the way. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Second inclement day of weather that you've invited me to the studio.
Every time we come to chat, it's always raining out there. But really do appreciate your responsiveness. Obviously, this report's only been out a few hours, so everyone's still digesting it. It seems like you all included.
Yeah, we just got it. After lunch, and it's a 500-page report. We're digesting it, but bottom line is, first of all, we're very thankful the report's out. We're pleased to have worked with the Senate Judiciary Committee on the report, and we're as optimistic as the senator is about the future of Wounded Warrior Project and what we do.
So I guess one of my headline questions here is this report wrong?
It's we take offense in a couple areas. Specifically, the program expense. I think we have been very clear that we follow the IRS reporting rules on how we categorize program expense versus other expenses like fundraising and administrative costs. And we respectfully disagree with the way the report categorizes our investment in long-term support trust. That's the program that supports caregivers and supports warriors in the instance of the loss of a caregiver. In the past, again, this was decisions made before my time, but Wounded Warrior has set aside some money to take care of warriors that we care for in their home in the instance of the loss of a caregiver. And we disagree with the way the report categorizes that expense. I've talked to many family members, caregivers that are taken care of, will be taken care of by that program, and it's the only program like it in the country, and what allows them to sleep at night restfully.
So help me to understand. The report says, as of last year, 251 injured veterans qualified for funds out of that long-term support trust, but your records that are included show not a single penny has been paid out. Right,
so it's a trust fund. It was set aside in the instance of a loss of a caregiver. Right now, Wounded Warrior provides in-home care for more than 600 grievously wounded service members as an alternative to institutionalization by the government. And that, by the way, we're very honored to do so, and we're grateful for the support of the American people to do that. One of the subsets of that program is to take care of the continued in-home care for the warrior if the caregiver passes. And that's what this money has been set aside. It's a trust fund. It's a program expense because we don't have access to those funds. We've set it aside at the behest of those families, and that money is in a vault, if you will, to take care of them long term.
Senator Grassleys said, after questioning you all about this, especially an ad that talked about that $65.4 million had been spent on long-term support, and he was saying he disagreed because he felt like the money had just been deposited to another account, that you all then plucked those ads from rotation.
We did. Yeah, we did. And we just wanted to take the confusion out of it. Families understand what this fund is all about. We didn't want to confuse our employees or those that support us about the program. And we're clearer now, I would say, about what the intent of that program is and what those funds do long term for those we serve.
Has anyone been paid out of those funds to date?
No, and thankfully, no, not yet. I will say that our warriors are aging. The average age of our warrior population is in the high 30s. They continue to age. Their caregivers, sometimes parents, are aging. I spoke to many of those caregivers that are getting up there in years. They don't want the burden on providing that in-home care to fall on their other family members or even the children of those grievously wounded warriors. So having that money set aside so that that continued in-home care can be provided is something we're really proud and honored to provide.
So you're saying this is where you'll fill in the gaps for government down the road, and that's why no money's been spent yet.
Right, and we haven't put money in that program because those 250 or 60 that you spoke to, that fund is now sufficient to meet the needs of those families. As things continue to come back, we'll continue to assess that program to see if more families need to get into that program that we will then support.
Okay. Are you all going to change your percentage at all? You all claim 80.6% goes directly to programs to help veterans. The Senate report disagreed, just like Charity Navigator and Charity Watch have in the past, charity oversight groups. They say the number's more in the 60s, 67% is the one Grassley used.
Well, Charity Navigator agrees with us, which is great. We're a 4-star Charity Navigator program in last year's 990. And by the way, we only use the IRS Form 990 now. 75% program expense. Ideally, we would like that number to be as high as it can be, but again, we want to serve more warriors. The need is great and growing. Mm-hmm. We are serving more than 100,000 warriors now, and more than 1,000 a month are joining our ranks. So we have to continue to spend some donor dollars on fundraising so we can provide the greater amount of care for the greater number. And as we talked about before, if we wanted to stay real small and not have the impact we do, then we would have a higher program expense ratio as categorized by the different accounting agencies.
So you still stand by the joint cost allocation?
We do.
Okay.
We do, yeah.
All right, so that's another point where you might respectfully disagree with the Senate findings.
We respectfully disagree. Our 990 is on the web. Folks can go to our 990, download it. We just published the 16990 on the web. Of course, Grassley report was focused on 15 and earlier. Mm-hmm. But yet we think we're pretty clear, and we do follow IRS rules, as do the other nonprofits, in how we account for program expense.
What is your reaction to the amount of money that was being spent on first-class flights?
First of all, we don't do that anymore. We don't fly first class or business class flights anymore. As I've gone back and done the work and looked at those 38,000 flights that have been provided, for the most part for warriors, but also staff that accompany those warriors, less than 1% of those were first class and business class flights. And many of those flights, as noted in the Grassleys report, were for service members with disabilities that needed accommodation in business class or first class where they were stretched your legs. Some weren't.
They said it was 5% of the overall flights were first and business class, and of those, 60% were for your employees.
And many of our employees are warriors themselves. Many of our employees have disabilities that need to be accommodated. But what we decided a year ago when I got here was let's just not do it. Let's just restrict all first class and business class flights. By exception, I will, by the way, I haven't looked at any yet since June. We've changed that policy, and we've restricted significantly how we fly warriors and how we fly staff that accompany those warriors on engagement events.
Okay, and also the Wounded Warrior Project often boasts the impact of your alumni programs. I heard you already mention more than 100,000 are enrolled right now. But the report kind of focused on that a lot of these are sporting events. There was even a Texas poker event, a midnight pool party, a wine and food festival.
All great events.
So you stand by those events?
Listen, all great events. 7,500 events a year. We solicit warriors to participate in events that get them out of isolation, get them into events that are fun with other warriors so they can gain resilience and courage from them to seek access to other programs that we offer in the mental health care arena, physical health and wellness arena, economic empowerment arena. The getting warriors together in groups is really what I believe is the most important first step in their rehabilitation. And when you look at any individual event, it looks like a midnight pool party. The midnight pool party was a family event at Fort Hamilton for 10 families. Barbecue, kids in a pool watching Disney flicks at night, and then at the end of the night going home and gaining newfound friendships. The poker night are events sponsored by donors that want to highlight Texas Hold'em events for warriors where they get together, and the one that finishes the night with the most chips gets free tickets to the Jets game that were donated. That's the type of events we're talking about. So anybody can cherry pick one or two events out of there and say it looks bad. But until you get into the depths of it and see what it really means, it's really about the connect piece of our mission to connect, serve, and empower. It's connecting warriors with each other, with the services and programs that are provided in their community and by other nonprofits, not just Wounded Warrior, and then connect them to the other programs Wounded Warrior provides that helps in their rehabilitation.
The report looked at your records and found 18% of all of the alumni events were attended by just one warrior.
Right.
Is that a problem?
We have a lot of events that are sometimes attended by hundreds and sometimes attended by one. We may have a donor that says, I have an extra ticket for a game that I want a warrior to go to. That's a program event with one warrior attendant. We obviously look to accommodate as many warriors as we can at events because it's that fellowship that allows them to make that connection and help them continue to heal.
The report is urging that alumni program in particular have some more oversight to make sure that the programs are as impactful as possible and have the biggest reach as possible. Is that something you might consider?
Yeah, Lindsay, in fact, we had a lot of discussions with the senator's team on that, and we are continuing to look for ways to be as carefully clear in categorizing the events that are attended by Warriors as we can, without putting just such an egregious administrative burden on our employees that are in 25 locations around the country. I mean, you can capture hours worth of data, and it just takes away from our employees' ability to provide services for Warriors. So we are looking for ways to become more efficient in how we capture those events, and we're looking for technological solutions that allow that to happen versus doing it the old-fashioned way when I was in high school, doing it like this.
Yeah.
Right.
So since you've taken over, you and I have talked a lot about the importance of regaining trust from the public. Does this report set you back?
I hope not. I honestly hope not, because I think if you read the press release and the senator's comments in the executive summary, beginning and end in particular, he's as pleased and optimistic for the changes that we've made over the last year, and he also realizes the importance of Wounded Warrior Project and other programs like ours, other VSOs like ours that fill in the gaps for the government. We all see what's going on in the world. It's not a safe place. You look at what happened in Manchester just the other night. You look at what's going on in Korea right now. Threats to our nation around the world are continuing to escalate. And I think the value of nonprofit organizations and other philanthropic organizations to help the government provide for the needs of our warriors is pretty important. And in fact, this Veterans Administration and administration have reached out to us and others to come together to see where we can help out.
I get a sense from you that this report has kind of been hanging over your head, almost like a monkey on the back.
No, I agree. Well, it's not egregious, because we've been part of this process for the last 15 months, but we have been waiting to put this report to rest because we've made a lot of changes. As you and I talked, I think 6 or 8 months ago, you know, the last year was a very difficult year, but for me and for the team we have now, I will just tell you the enthusiasm, the optimism, the compassion and the commitment towards the warriors that we serve, and most importantly, the warriors' courage in overcoming their whatever they faced when they were in combat, to helping become, you know, the most successful generation of wounded service members in our nation's history. Our mission is really what it's all about. So we are all honored and hugely optimistic. We're happy the report is out. We're continuing to dig through it tonight and tomorrow and the weekend, and we'll look to continue to improve, because we are a learning organization. We're always looking for ways to get better.
What do you want the message to be from you, the CEO of Wounded Warrior Project, tonight to the donating public and to veterans?
Yeah, to veterans, I would just reach out to all veterans, especially the veterans that we serve post 9/11, and just reiterate to them that there are many organizations, Wounded Warrior Project being one of them, that are there to serve them as supplement to what they get from the government, in particular the VA and some of the community-based organizations. So if they need help, especially if they're in crisis, please reach out to us for help, and if we can't help them, we can steer them to where they need help. So my first message is to the veterans we serve. And secondly, I would just say to the American people, to those that support our veterans. By the way, they don't support Wounded Warrior Project. They support the veterans. They support those we serve. Continue to be as generous and as gracious as you can to help make a difference for this generation that has given so much to us since the attacks on 9/11.
Do you feel like your employees from the top down are now being more mindful of their expenses?
Oh, I can tell you that that's absolutely true. Program expenditures are reviewed by 2 levels of supervision now, and I get an expense roll up every month. And that's why we've been able to, despite having very difficult last 9 months, year, have continued to been able to serve the veterans we do, because we're looking at ways to maintain the impact we do, but do it at a lower cost, more impactful way. So we're doing more family events, we're doing more group events, we're doing less expensive physical health and wellness events. We're not buying gym memberships like we did in the past. Instead, we're doing groups of workouts that coach people into health and hold them accountable for long-term progress. And then, of course, our mental health programs, as you and I spoke about before, we have not reduced. In fact, we've increased our investment in mental health programs, because that's where the need is greatest. And that's where we see the need in the future will continue to grow.
I really respect your candor and your transparency to always be willing to come right over and answer any questions that we have. You know, obviously it's no secret that the former leadership did not exercise the same transparency, which is reflected in the report. And it's hard, I know, because you all were the beneficiaries, your warriors, your veterans, of such graciousness by the American people. And now, you know, you've taken a hit and you're trying to come back from that. But I guess, like, how do you categorize that chapter in Wounded Warrior Project's past? The lavish spending and what these whistleblowers were talking about. I know it's a past and you're focused on the future,
right.
But
well, I would just remind folks that much of what was reported was either inaccurate or exaggerated. And folks know by reading the BBB report and many of the articles that I've written since. I think this report that just came out, I think highlights not so much the past as, I mean, the past, but also what are we doing in the future? And that's where my focus remains. My focus, our team, is focused on how we can best serve this generation of wounded service members, their families, their caregivers, and how can we, in partnership with many others, to include the government, make a difference in their lives. And that's my personal commitment. And frankly, it was the most difficult year in the 14 years of our organization. But I mean, honestly, I actually think we're stronger now because of this intense spotlight over the last year. And our employees, our warriors, have such a close bond that I'm optimistic about the future. And that's why I sleep well at night and I look forward to coming to work every morning.
But do you all as a charity take any responsibility for the questionable spending practices in the past?
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. I mean, and we review it all the time as leaders. Every event we do, we look at it in terms of, is there a way to do those events more efficiently, more effectively? Honoring donor intent is important. Donors provide resources to Wounded Warrior Project to raise awareness for the needs of this generation and to serve them directly. So we review every event we do through that lens, and we're very careful to match what we do with the expectation of those that provide us the resources to do it. And we take really our direction from those we serve. Our warrior survey we do every year speaks to what events we do warriors get the most benefit from, and we do tailor our programs to the areas of greatest need.
So what do you think are your programs that have the best benefit?
Well, obviously we have to connect with the warriors first, so continuing to do those thousands of events every year that bring warriors together in groups so they can get out of isolation, out of areas of isolation into events with other warriors is most important. But then once they get into those programs, into those events, continuing to expose them to what else is out there in terms of mental health programs, physical health and wellness programs, or areas that help them through their economic empowerment, employment programs, and benefits counseling. Those are all programs that make the biggest difference. And at the end of the day, it's about living the logo. I mean, many of our warriors join us in a time in their lives where they need help. They're the warrior being carried off the battlefield. But at the end of our programs, many, many hundreds, thousands of warriors are then giving back, leading peer groups, leading other engagement events with warriors that help them recover and rehabilitate as well.
Is there anything else you want to add tonight?
No, just thanks for your time. And as always, hopefully it won't be raining next time you call me over.
Right? Maybe we can get together in the sunshine.
Yeah.
No,
Enjoy. Let me say one more thing.
Okay.
This weekend's Memorial Day. And Memorial Day is a day that everyone, our nation, stops to pause and reflect on those that have made the ultimate sacrifice. Having served 35 years in uniform, it's a special day for me. I look forward to spending the day in downtown Jacksonville. And I just ask all Americans to take a moment, pause, and thank those veterans that have kept our nation as free for democracy as it is today.
All right, thank you so much for coming by,
Thanks,
Mr. Linnington.
Lindsay,
We're going to
very
upload
much.
this entire interview on our website so people can hear from you in full
Good.
tonight. So thank
Okay.
you.